on tonight's hair-raising episode of Mythbusters. Adam and Jamie put cinema's most famous chomp fest to the test. We find out, could a real shark be as strong as Spielberg's Leviathan? Will punching a shark save your skin?
Come on, let's go.
And will a bullet blow a scuba tank sky high? Who can forget Jaws, the movie that made a generation think twice about taking a bath? In Steven Spielberg's classic, a big fish with a big dorsal turns swimmers into tasty morsels before finally being blown out of the water by an exploding scuba tank.
Smile, you son of a...
We're going to see if punching a shark will actually stop it from attacking you. We're going to test how strong sharks are. And then, my personal favorite, we're going to see if shooting a scuba tank with a bullet will actually make it explode.
The massive great white shark in Jaws exhibits almost supernatural strength and stamina. It keeps 3 flotation barrels submerged for hours on end. It yanks Quint's boat, the Orca, backwards while the engine's running.
Impossible! It's impossible!
It demolishes a shark cage. And it rams a hole in the Orca's hull. But is any of it feasible? Adam and Jamie will put each of those scenarios to the test in true Mythbusters style.
One down!
The movie shark displays 2 different kinds of strength. Pulling down the barrels and towing the boat backwards are examples of continuous force. Ramming the cage and the boat, that's shock force.
Adam, what are you doing?
I'm trying to apply some biomechanical force to this rope to see if there's some kind of proportion to my body weight and how much force I can apply on this rope horizontally and what a shark's body weight is underwater and what it can apply to a fishing line, for instance.
By using shock force, Adam and Jamie can exert almost 10 times their body weight.
1,000 pounds. You made 1,000 pounds of lunge.
But on a constant pull, they muster barely half. Is it the same for a shark? Time to collect some hard data. And so we find them making pre-dawn preparations for a little jaunt, armed with sealed decoys and a 20,000-pound force gauge.
The next stage basically involves we'll have our decoys out in the water, and we're hoping that a shark will actually grab one. And if he does, we're going to have our big scale on the end of it so we can maybe go right to the source and find out how much pulling strength a shark might actually have. It's not guaranteed by any means, but this is the best place to find out.
But it doesn't look like Adam will find out anything. So much for the old sea dog. Sick as a dog, more like it. The Farallon Islands lie 27 miles off the coast of San Francisco. They're as jagged as the teeth of the great whites that prowl these waters. With Adam still out of action, Jamie deploys the decoys. Then there's nothing to do but wait and talk big fish. Sean Van Summeren is an expert on great whites. He's seen their incredible power and speed.
I've seen, 2.5-ton white sharks come flying out of the water and bite big 50, 60-pound bites out of elephant seals and things like that. Things that, impress me as a hugely powerful animal.
A great white speed has never been clocked. However, during aerial maneuvers like this, it's estimated they travel between 20 and 25 miles per hour. Unfortunately for the Mythbusters, the Farallon sharks are keeping a much lower profile. Maybe the decoys aren't to their taste. Looks like it's on to Plan B. When Adam recovers, that is.
Well, Adam, we're just back from the Farallons, and we have a fundamental problem testing the strength of a great white. We just can't practically or politically or ethically do it. There's only a few hundred of them along the entire west coast of the United States.
Well, I still think it's important to use a real animal to get some shark strength data. So perhaps when we go to the Bahamas and we're dealing with some other species of sharks, we can do some of these tests with another species, but real sharks nonetheless, and try and get some good results out of that.
The Bahamas. Looks like the gang's off for a little vacation.
Hello. Hello.
The Bahamas are a chain of islands that lie off the southeast of Florida. The waters teem with Caribbean reef sharks. At a maximum length of around 6 feet, they don't bear much relation to the movie monster, but they might still provide some good shark strength data. The guys from the Bimini Biological Research Station have agreed to help. This time, Adam's managing to keep his lunch down. The Mythbusters know this brief trip won't yield definitive answers. Still, some figures are better than none. The line is attached to a 150-pound force gauge. When a shark takes the bait, they can measure the amount of force.
Oh, there we go. Come on, pull.
Fight.
There we go, that's it.
Yeah.
Fight, more fight. I got a shock load of about 30 pounds on him, but only a steady pressure of maybe 15.
Each shark is brought in and weighed.
Yeah.
Okay, what does it say, Jamie?
About 45 pounds.
45 pounds.
Minus 15 pounds for the rig, which means this little guy exerts a shock force of about his own weight.
Sharky.
Nice. Oh, yeah, he's got it.
Went up to about
Shock load of 70. Steady pull. 30.
Okay, come on, don't let him give it. Don't let him get under there. There we go. Good.
Okay,
He's in place.
he's in place. You ready?
That purple line.
Okay, back is cinched. Let it go. Okay.
Okay, now's good for the reading.
There you go. That's 70 pounds right there.
Okay, so minus 15.
All right.
So again, he's about pulling his own weight, which is what one would expect.
The rule of thumb seems to be that sharks can pull no more than their own weight on a shock load, and about 30% of their weight on a continuous pull.
So you ready to go after that big hammerhead now?
Yeah.
The guys will use those two figures as the basis of their shark strength experiments, which they'll carry out back in San Francisco. But first, they have a jab at another Jaws myth. In the film's climax, the marauding great white backs off briefly after being whacked on the nose with a scuba tank. But would that really deter a 25-foot fish intent on eating you?
What do you got behind your back?
Well, the myth is that if you're attacked by a shark and you punch it in the nose or you jab it in the gills, that you'll frighten it away.
You know, I can't really come up with a way I'd like to test this one.
Well, actually, I have an idea, and that would be to take Buster, our crash test dummy, out into shark-infested waters, cover him with fish offal, like guts and stuff, and have him fend off the sharks with some kind of punching mechanism.
That actually seems like a pretty good plan, Jamie. But, you know, a lot's changed since Jaws came out. I mean, a lot of species of sharks are endangered, and I don't think we should just go mechanically smacking away at them willy-nilly. I think we really need to perhaps do some tests using our high-speed camera to see how hard a human can punch and not really exceed that amount. We don't want to hurt any sharks during the making of this show.
It's a very real concern. A shark's snout contains a finely tuned bioelectrical system to help them hunt. Tiny receptors on the nose detect electrical signals from potential prey. So could Jaws be right? Is a shark's nose its glass jaw?
What we're about to do is to test the force of a human punch. Adam's going to try and punch me, and before he does that, I'm going to put on this protective suit we call the Red Man suit, because it's red.
Oh, okay.
Of course, Jamie doesn't need to wear the whole outfit for the test, but if there's one thing the Mythbusters love, it's a good dress-up.
Are you ready?
Guys, when you've quite finished... Okay, it's time for Adam to live his dream.
Give me your breath shot. Come on.
He gets to punch Jamie for the high-speed camera, all in the name of science.
All right. 3, 2, 1. That was okay, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Okay, ready?
That was a hard one.
3, 2, 1.
Adam's fastest punch is clocked at 20 miles per hour.
Now we got to do force. How much force is behind those punches?
How are we going to do that?
I was thinking if we took something like a sandbag a large bag of sand and we hit it and saw how far it swung and we were able to replicate that swing, we'd have something pretty accurate.
One of Buster's thighs makes a good punching bag.
Off the end of the scale.
The scale there, Rocky.
Force is mass times acceleration. Buster's thigh weighs 10 pounds. Jamie's punch moves that 10 pounds, 37 inches in a third of a second.
All right, Jimmy, so when I threw my punch, my best speed was about 20 miles an hour. And when you actually punched the leg meat here, you made it move about 3 feet with your punch.
Yeah, as long as we recorded all of the exact placements of everything, the camera, the distance traveled and everything, we should be able to replicate it or try to.
Coming up, how great was the great white in Jaws? Could a real shark be as strong? And Buster gets set to go a few rounds with some denizens of the deep.
We've got a robot in the water, he's stuffed with tuna, and it's just another day here at Mythbusters.
It's Jaws night, and the Mythbusters are putting some scenes from the movie to the test. Jamie's turning Buster into a punching machine to test the myth that a sharp biff on a shark's nose will send it packing. The plan is to build a pair of aluminum arms with specially molded fists that'll be powered by compressed air from a scuba tank. Then Buster will be chummed to the eyeballs and dropped in the ocean. When a curious shark approaches, he'll come out swinging.
So that'll be the most upward pose. Woo!
Hear that little chuckle? You always get that when things are going to plan.
And there you go. Well, that's a punch. It works. And according to specs, it has plenty of power. It'll be mounted on the shoulder like so.
Just one thing, those shoulder pads are so 1985.
He looks like a superhero.
Let's see if his air-powered fists can exert the same force as Jamie.
Okay, ready? That's pretty fast. Aim it a little to your right. No, the other way.
There you go.
I'd say we may well be in the ballpark of...
It looks like we are in the ballpark. At 80 PSI, it went about 3/4 of the way up the scale.
Yeah,
and you went all the way to the end of that scale. So
more pressure, we probably get it to go a little faster. We just need to solve the valve problem.
yeah.
The problem currently is with the valve, and while it's a perfect valve, that's nothing wrong with the valve. For some reason, it's not designed to exhaust the air that needs to come out the far side of these actuators whenever we work them back and forth.
In other words, air isn't being bled out of the system fast enough. Now, Jamie wanted to keep the rig simple. One lever, one pull, one punch. But it doesn't look like that'll be an option.
You actually have to do it as a two-stage process to be able to open and bleed things in the right way to get the air to flow quickly. The problem with doing it this way is that it's a little bit like patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. There's, an additional thing going on, and we're going to be focusing on punching the shark on cue. So I was trying to avoid it.
While Jamie sorts out his rig, Adam tackles some more Jaws myths. Like, could a real shark possess the same strength as the great white in Jaws? There's 4 separate tests to try out, each one taken from a scene in the movie.
I've been given responsibility to build a shark cage that exactly matches the one from the film in every detail: height, weight, size, thickness, everything. What we want to do is actually ram this with a fake shark, and we want to see if a real shark could actually destroy the cage like Jaws did in the movie.
I know there are 7 of these bars. I know they're an inch wide each.
I've actually done a fair amount of this in movies where they often ask you to rebuild a prop from a previous scene, but they don't have the prop. You've got to look at the scene and sort of figure out exactly how big everything is. So I'm doing that, looking at a bunch of stuff from Jaws.
The other thing they're going to need for the strength tests is a shark-shaped battering ram. Question is, how big should it be? The great white in Jaws is said to be 25 feet long and 6,000 pounds, but science has no record of a shark that big.
One of the most important facts for us to get right for this shark strength experiment is how big do great whites actually get. And You know, the size estimates are all over the map. We've got one from 1945 in Cuba, 21 feet long, 7,000 pounds. Further analysis of the photograph shows that it was more like 16 feet long, and they never actually weighed it.
And then there was Ralph Collier, who wrote a book called Shark Attacks of the 20s.
17 and 19 feet long, about 3,000 pounds. That's a really good average for a mature female great white shark.
There's no time for anatomical accuracy. Instead, they'll cast a shark head, and the body will be a length of pipe weighing 3,000 pounds. Step 1. Carrie carves a great white head from a great white block of foam, which the build team then uses to make a fiberglass mold. Meanwhile, Adam's finding out that building a shark cage from scratch is no walk in the park.
Oh, I'm a little zoned out. I'm more than halfway there in the machining of these things.
There we have a 100% accurate prop reproduction of the Jaws shark cage.
Up she goes.
So I guess now the question is, what kind of shark abuse will this puppy withstand?
And we won't find the answer to that until the build team finishes the shark ramp. Next stop, an art supply shop.
It sounds like Jamie has picked a certain rubber that he thinks would most match the shark skin. So we're probably going to go with that.
We actually are looking for a fast-curing polyurethane that can be brushed on. It can be applied really thick so that we can work really quickly and get this shark head knocked out, because we've been working on it for days. We thought it would take a day.
What we've got here is a Goldilocks situation. If the rubber's too hard, the ram will easily penetrate the targets. Too soft, and it'll bounce right off. So it has to be just right.
Yummy.
It's a sticky situation, and some test tugging has Tori worried.
This is like my worst nightmare coming true. Not being able to pull a piece out of a mold. I hear it separating, that's a good thing. Come on, baby. Starting to come. Yeah.
The result, one rubber and fiberglass shark head.
Huh. That was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Now just paint and attach to a big pipe.
Sharammer!
Next on Mythbusters, I get eaten.
It's out of the workshop and into shark-infested water. The Mythbusters want to find out, will punching a shark stop it attacking you? Jamie's trying to turn Buster into an air-powered shark punching machine. In Jaws, Brody buys himself some time by hitting the shark with a scuba tank. In the real world, it's a commonly held belief that when a shark attacks, offense is the best form of defense. One famous shark attack survivor believes that fighting back probably saved his life. In 1963, Rodney Fox was spearfishing off the South Australian coast when he suddenly found himself in the jaws of a great white.
All I remember is this big thing pushing me through the water.
When I was attacked, I knew I was being attacked, and I just thought I should fight it off and do my best to get out of it. And because I actually fought and I grabbed hold of the shark around the belly so it wouldn't bite me, and then I kicked at it and I pushed it off, I believe that helped a lot.
Whatever the reason, Rodney Fox was released and lived to tell the tale. His wounds needed more than 500 stitches.
Well, there you go.
Looks like Buster's ready to come out swinging. Jamie's overcome the airflow restriction, although operating the rig now takes a degree of coordination and timing.
Just kind of balance it. It won't hit you if you're down here. I will steer it. Adam, since you're going to be operating that thing, you might as well operate it.
Is it powered up?
It's powered up, and I will have to hold on to this to aim it.
All right, are you ready?
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. That was pretty close.
There's only 2 inches difference between Jamie's test punch and Buster's effort. That's close enough.
I mean, the other thing that you were doing when you hit it is you were putting your whole shoulder behind it.
Yeah.
You weren't doing this, like that. And, I mean, the fact that it came within 2 inches of your mark, I think that's just perfect.
I think this thing could hurt you. I think we're about to find out whether it'll hurt you.
All right, I'll go put on the suit.
What did I say about dressing up?
Yeah, I can shake a booty in this.
Looks like Buster's got his measure.
Come on, let's go. So, Buster's finally punching. He's doing well. He's got the right speed.
Yeah, the last thing we have to do is hang him over the shark cage or in front of it, because I'll be inside it steering him. You'll be on the surface operating the valve so he punches.
Making him punch, right?
Yeah, and that's about it.
As we know, the waters off Northern California are home to some giant great white sharks. But even the Mythbusters would think twice before shaping up to these monsters. Buster will have to pick on something his own size, like, say, a Caribbean reef shark.
All right, looks like it's time to pack Buster's bags for the Bahamas. What do you think he'd wear, shorts or a little thong?
I don't know if Buster has enough actual flesh down there for a thong, but...
Yeah, he's got no butt at all. In fact, he doesn't even have any legs.
Here we go again.
We've put Buster through a lot on this show. We've burnt him, blown him up, dropped him off of buildings, but I think this is his shining moment. We've finally given him the gift of movement, and we're going to put him in with some sharks.
Two sharks right below us.
We really want these sharks to come right in to Buster. We need to have them think of Buster as dinner. And so we've got to really motivate them, get them all worked up. That means probably baiting the area, and in particular, baiting Buster, having him, like, you know, exuding fish essence.
I'll tell you, looking at all these sharks in the water, if Buster was a real boy, he'd be absolutely terrified right now.
Buster's being turned into a smorgasbord. Step 1, put on his wetsuit. No mean feet when he has no feet. Then pack the wetsuit with juicy morsels, sure to have the sharks licking their chops. Metaphorically, of course. Sharks don't have tongues.
I still think that shark fighting Buster might end up being like punching this way while sharks are eating his ass. You know? But I think if he actually gets contact, the shark's going to go right away.
Buster's got more hose than a lingerie store. What if a shark gnaws through it? Will he be sent down to Davy Jones' locker?
Well, you know, if Buster's umbilical does get cut and he goes to the bottom, I mean, hell or high water, we're going to get him back out. We leave no man behind on Mythbusters, man.
Yeah.
Jamie will be holding on to Buster through the bars of the shark cage, so he'll be modeling the latest chainmail. But he won't be going alone. Stuart Coves agreed to join him in the cage.
Jamie, you look really hot in that chainmail.
Stuart, is there any kind of possibility for stuff getting out of control with this thing? I mean, we're going to chum the heck out of the water here, right?
Yeah, it's definitely going to get out of control, but we're in the cage. So the only problem we may have is if, you know, one of the sharks, the little ones, gets inside the cage.
Okay.
Buster goes overboard.
We've got a robot in the water. He's stuffed with tuna, and it's just another day here, Mythbusters. Ask him how that went.
How are those two deafening blows? Over.
Those look just like they were in the show. They're very aggressive. Over.
I guess we're ready for some sharks. Over.
Standing by. Over.
They're coming. Airing up. Over.
Go ahead.
Punch.
Initially, Buster's a little slow to react. The sharks seem cautious, but soon the fishy waft from his wetsuit has them fired up. Buster has a real fight on his hands.
Oh my God. This is more fun than should be allowed.
The reef sharks do shy away when punched or poked, but they don't stay away for long. A shark shoots up from below and grabs Buster's arm.
Okay, that was pretty intense. We just had a punch delivered dead onto a shark and it ripped Buster out of my hands while he was wrestling with the shark. Over.
While Boxing Buster is working well, he's still a little hit and miss. Remember, the myth says that punching a shark in the nose, eyes, or gills will stop it attacking. Not sure how often Buster's finding the mark.
It's killing me not being able to see down there. It totally has killed me.
The smell of the bait is making them bolder.
They're giggling. I can't even hear them.
Oh, bump the camera. Whoa!
I just got one of those "what the hell am I doing" moments. Over.
That was amazing.
Sometimes the sharks would just come in and get a hold of him, and they were like completely swallowing his hands while I'm going punch, punch, punch. You know, it's like,
and he's just shaking the shark.
I just let him go, and he's out there swimming around by himself, punching and.
The conquering hero returns, bearing the scars of battle.
See, look at this. Look at all these bites around the wrist. That means he swallowed the hand. He's just like ripped to shreds.
And so is his fish-filled wetsuit.
It's quite obvious that they're very skittish. They don't like to be challenged. And if you give them a good rap, they're likely to go away. So I think it's actually impressively plausible.
But the Mythbusters haven't traveled all the way to the Bahamas to leave it at that. Now they've seen the sharks in action. They're already planning their next bout.
Clearly, I think we might be slipping on Mythbusters. I mean, the robotic shark-punching Buster worked perfectly the first time out.
Yeah, you know, it showed if the sharks were really motivated to go for you, you know, like really attack you. That was their focus, because he was all chummed up and they wanted him. That you might as well go after him. You might as well punch him. What else are you going to do?
Because it really actually did something.
Yeah, it fended him off.
Yeah, but I still think that we need to do a little more testing with this myth. I mean, clearly after what Stuart said, it sounds like if you punch the shark, they're going to come at you more aggressively. I think that we might have to take this a step further and get into the chainmail and have one of us, not me,
not me,
clearly Jamie,
that would be me.
Get down there in the chainmail and punch them personally.
And see if they get more riled up by punching, and if punching is actually worse than not punching. Are you willing to do it?
You know what they say, when you're swimming with sharks, you're going to get bit.
Coming up on Mythbusters.
Can a bullet turn a scuba tank into a bomb? And how can this tank help solve the riddle of shark strength? How strong is a shark? According to Adam and Jamie's figures, a shark can exert no more than its own weight on a shock load, and about 30% of its weight on a continuous pull. If that's right, then is it possible for a real shark to wreak the same sort of havoc as the one in Jaws? The Mythbusters are in the perfect place to find out. A dry dock at an abandoned naval yard. This 38-foot cruiser will play the role of Quint's doomed boat, the Orca. It's similar in size, weight, and construction.
This feels exactly like Quint's boat in the movie.
Start the engines.
I mean, the space in the cabin and all of that stuff, I know they're probably shooting on a set half the time, but it feels exactly right.
We're calling it the Orca 5. I think the 1, 2, 3, and 4 they used in various movies. All the Jaws movies. They even had one with the balsa wood stern so the shark could get up on it easier.
Always wanted to do this. I christen thee the Orca 5. Ew. How the hell do they do this?
It's made of stern stuff, Carrie.
Okay, I'm gonna go for it for the 7th time. Christen thee the Orca 5. This break!
Okay, stop.
The 3,000-pound Sharammer is ready for action.
Winching up.
And they found the perfect way to tow it through the waters.
That is foxy. That is a foxy machine.
This is an MTVL, Mobile Tactical Vehicle Light, on loan from United Defense, one of the U.S. military's biggest contractors. 28,000 pounds, 400 horsepower, 0 to 20 miles per hour in 7 seconds.
Well, this is going to be our main drag vehicle for all of our shark experiments. This is heavy enough and fast enough to provide us with the speed and traction we need to pull boats, to pull sharks, to wreck shark cages, and all the stuff we need to do.
But Adam, will they let you drive it?
Ooh, I don't know if that's in the cards.
Right, down to business. Time to roll out the barrels. Here's the plan. The barrels are tethered to a concrete block sitting on the bottom of the channel. A length of rope goes from the barrels through a system of pulleys to the force gauge, which is connected to the tank. The tank takes off, the barrels get jerked under, and the gauge registers the amount of force needed to submerge them. These are the actual barrels Spielberg used in the making of Jaws.
Okay.
If any harm comes to these babies, the owner will have Adam over a you-know-what.
The only thing we're told we can't do is burn them, blow them up, or lose them.
Has he watched the show?
The barrel line is fed through the pulleys and tied to the force gauge on the rear of the tank.
All right, so I think we're ready.
Adam monitors a feed from a camera mounted above the force gauge. Ready, set, sink.
$1,500 right there. Are they under, Carrie?
They are just under.
Just about 1,200 pounds.
We have 1,200 pounds.
All right. I think we can back up. That's a good test.
You ready to back on the slack?
Hold on, I want to take a look.
What?
Ah, look at that. They're all the way under. Woo! Yeah! One down. Barrel test. How much force would it take to sink 3 of the barrels from the movie Jaws below the surface of the water? Worked perfectly. My estimation of about 1,300 pounds was very close. It turned out to be just over 1,200 pounds to keep it under the surface. The test showed that your average real-size shark, between 17 and 19 feet, between 3,000 and 4,000 pounds, just would not have the strength to hold these barrels under the water. It might be able to pull them under briefly, but it would not be able to keep them there.
That's Shark Strength Round 1 to the Mythbusters.
Oh, yeah! All right, guys. You know we have to have one explosion per episode, and this one is a classic. The question is the end of the movie Jaws actually feasible? When Brody stuffs the scuba tank in the shark's mouth and fires a rifle right in its end, will it explode with enough force to blow the shark to smithereens?
Smile, you son of a...
In the book version of Jaws, the great white meets a different fate, dying after being harpooned by Quint. And author Peter Benchley wasn't happy about Spielberg's explosive climax. The director was adamant. When Brody squeezed that trigger, the villain of the piece was going to go up like an oil refinery. But Benchley thought that having the scuba tank explode when shot was unbelievable.
He said, I don't care. He said, if I have got them for 2 hours, they will believe whatever I do for the next 3 minutes because I've got them in my hands and I want the audience on their feet screaming. At the end, yes, yes, yes.
What audiences got was one of cinema's most memorable finales.
Okay, clearly this is going to be extraordinarily dangerous. I mean, we got to figure out a way to protect ourselves. Do you have any plans?
Well, actually, I do. My thought was to get a hold of one of those shipping containers, the big steel things, and if we put the scuba tank inside that and we take our gun and mount it also inside that, but make it able to fire remotely, so we'll hook a motor or something up to it and run a wire way far away, we should be able to operate this safely.
There's no question that a scuba tank carries a lot of energy. Inside each cylinder is enough air to fill a phone booth, about 80 cubic feet. The air's a mix, 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. The air is stored under enormous pressure, 3,000 psi, or 204 atmospheres. It's estimated that a single tank carries 1.3 million pounds of explosive force. And that's what Adam and Jamie want to unleash.
You know, I've got some prop geek buddies out there, and I managed to obtain one of the actual tanks used in the shooting of Jaws. It's actually been signed by Richard Dreyfuss. Jamie, you want to tell me what kind of tank this is?
Well, this is the most common type of tank that we would use these days. This is an aluminum 80. This is actually pretty good because part of this myth is about showing what would happen if you blew up a tank this way. And I understand these things have about 1 million, or actually it's 1.3 million pounds of explosive force. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds like a lot. So this is going to be fun.
Our scuba tank will have to be clenched in the jaws of a great white shark. As well connected as he is, Adam can't get hold of the one used in the movie. So he's going to make his very own.
We're working on making basically a mock-up shark's head to put this tank into when we explode it. I'm just still framing through the movie Jaws to take a look at some of the basic measurements of the shark's mouth to try and duplicate the dimensions correctly. I'm using a technique called additive foam buildup, which involves using upholstery foam like this, which is just like a 1-inch urethane foam, and some contact cement, which is exactly how they made Muppets, in fact, to make this shark's head. I've got a sample over here that I prepared earlier.
It's a pretty good technique for making sharks.
The other question is, what are they going to shoot the tank with?
We've chosen the 30-06 because, as near as we can tell by looking very carefully at the movie, it's the same type of weapon that was used to shoot the scuba tank.
The guys at the gun shop agree. This war vintage M1 Garand uses a 30-06 rifle cartridge. And it's starting to dawn on Jamie that he's staring down the barrel of one dangerous challenge.
It may be a 1 in a million chance, but the fact is, if that weapon goes off when it's in the right position, I'm dead.
Later, the FBI's on standby as the Mythbusters trigger the scuba tank firing squad.
In 3, 2, 1!
And after the break, they put shark strength to the test.
I got it!
Whoa, dude, you really ate your Wheaties this morning.
The Mythbusters have already sunk one Jaws myth. Now, it's time for the second shark strength test. For this experiment, the Orca 5 will be connected to the tank and yanked backwards. To replicate the scene successfully, the boat will have to be pulled back so fast that waves break over the stern.
I can't hold it!
Okay, we're about to fire up the engine. Stand by. Okay, go ahead. We're going ahead.
The force gauge will be monitored by Carrie. And the Orca 5 sets sail, full steam behind.
Holy. You're good, you're good.
The tank hits 25 miles per hour, the estimated top speed of a great white shark. The force gauge trembles between 4,000 and 8,000 pounds. And Orca 5's maiden voyage comes to a sudden end.
Stop! Stop! Stop!
It was an action replay of the movie. A cleat was wrenched out. But that's where reality ends and fiction begins.
That actually proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Jaws shark could not have dragged the Orca backwards until water splashed over the stern, because it would require it to exert more than double its own weight. And we didn't find a single shark that could do that.
So that's Mythbusters 2, Jaws, Zip. Later, the Sharammers dead on target when the Mythbusters tackle the movie's remaining strength scenes. Back at base, work on the exploding scuba tank myth continues.
So it's got some structure, but it's going to need some more.
Adam's Muppet Maneater is nearing completion. It's just like the real thing, only cuddly.
Ta-da! Doesn't that look good?
Looks awesome.
There you go.
Everything is set, so they decamp to a disused Air Force base miles from any innocent bystanders. Here's what they're going to do. Fred the foam sharks at one end.
That looks awesome.
Jamie's remote firing gun rig is set up with the rifle position to fire at point-blank range.
Yeah, so it's held up here. There you go. That's it.
First, a test. They give Fred an empty scuba tank to chew on, just to see if a bullet can pierce the thick aluminum bottom. Adam's tip?
We were able to put one of those bullets through 2 layers of bulletproof Lexan, but it's 2 inches of aluminum. I mean, it's a lot stronger stuff. I don't think it's going to make it through the bottom. I think we're going to end up firing it, seeing that it doesn't work, and going right through the side.
If he's right, that'll be myth-busted right there. Jamie loads a round into the rifle.
Guns loaded. Say when.
Go for it.
And 3, 2, 1.
I think it went off.
That's fun.
Lucky Adam didn't have any money riding on that result.
Gonna pull it out.
That went right through.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Wow.
So, amazingly, that part of the myth is totally plausible.
Yes, indeed. Now we get to see what will happen with it under pressure.
On the other side of the break, put up your dukes, Jamie. It's time to fight off some fish.
If I was in charge, I wouldn't put him down there.
Jamie's agreed to take the plunge and put the shark-punching myth to the ultimate test.
We're out here at a new location. It's much farther out, and these sharks are wild. They're much more aggressive. They're swirling around the boat right away when we landed, or when we dropped anchor here. And, you know, it's got me a little concerned.
Buster was punching some pretty well-fed, well-trained sharks out there at the 2-mile mark. We're way farther out here, and these sharks are, from what we've seen this morning, a lot more aggressive, a lot quicker to go right for the food that they're interested in. And there could be, you know, some confusion and some danger involved. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I would completely support Jamie if he said no.
I'm a little worried. I don't really want Jamie to go down there and do that. Watching those sharks, they're way more aggressive, and I'm actually really nervous. If I was in charge, I wouldn't put him down there.
But Carrie, wasn't it your idea?
Have one of us, not me.
Not me.
Clearly, Jamie. Come on. Would you want to hurt that guy? Look at him.
The worst case scenario with this would be, say, if one of the animals got a hold of my arm and started to thrash, they could potentially break it.
If I see a shark coming up with a beret, I'm going to be mad at you.
Here's the plan. Jamie and Stuart will dive to the seabed with a full bait box. Jamie, wearing chainmail, will then try and guard the bait against an army of hungry sharks using only his fists.
Hurt me. Go ahead.
Now, Adam can't dive because of an ear problem. Lucky then that the crew have brought along a bubble sub, a personal submersible that can be piloted by someone who doesn't have a dive ticket. Air from a regular tank is pumped into the bubble. Jamie and Stuart take the bait to the bottom.
Microphone test. Respond back to me if you can hear me. Over.
I can hear you fine. This is Jamie. Over.
Roger that. Over. Are the sharks coming at you?
All around us.
Right. Let the battle commence.
Okay, the sharks are all around them.
Where Buster's strikes were random, Jamie's are precise, sticking to the areas specified in the myth. He's also using very little force. It's soon obvious that Jamie's punches aren't making the sharks more aggressive. Adam has a ringside seat, just out of the danger zone.
Jamie, have you done enough punching to come up with a result? Over.
Let me think about it a little bit. I'm a little busy right now. Hitting them is like hitting bone. And the more aggressive I get with punching them, the more they go away. Over. I definitely don't see that punching them is making them angry. I mean, I'm defending this, and they seem to be responding. They know I'm guarding the bait box, and they're not coming in as tight as they were.
Swimming around. I mean, it's obvious they don't like even being poked. I mean, you could really pretty much do this and get the same result.
The front of the shark, the nose, is like bone. I'm sure it's cartilage instead. It's just, knock, knock.
So,
they don't respond to it too much either. Punching in the soft sides along the gills or whatever, you can do it, and they seem to actually respond to it. I felt like I was actually defending the bait box by punching at them. I did not feel them like getting angry at me or...
All right, so shark punching, busted, plausible, or confirmed?
I would have to say plausible. I don't think it's a 100% way to defend yourself depending on the circumstances. But I tell you what, if you get bit by a shark and they're going for it, I'd be punching at it.
Yeah, I think I'd be punching at anything that was biting me.
Up next, a shark ram showdown. And later, they've got a loaded scuba tank and a loaded gun. Will the result look like this? There's no record of a great white ever attacking and smashing a shark cage. But when you look at the size of some of them, it's easy to imagine. Down at the dock, it's time to move on to the Shark Force tests.
I'd say that's as pretty as you please.
The Sharammers going into action. The Sharammer will be hooked up to the personnel carrier, which will then deliver its payload head-on at a speed of 25 miles per hour. The result should look something like this. Even with a steel dorsal fin, the Sharammer doesn't look as scary as Bruce, the fake shark in Jaws. But it is more like a real shark when it comes to weight and buoyancy.
I measure the shark to be about 513 feet away from the target.
All right, here we go.
We're standing by to start the track vehicle, over.
The ram is the same length and weight as a mature great white. It's about to become a jawpedo.
We're waiting on your signal to go.
Okay, we're go.
The MTVL will stop at a preset distance, so the rope goes slack before the collision. That means the Sharammer is not being towed, but traveling under its own momentum when it strikes the cage at 25 miles per hour, the estimated top speed of a great white shark.
Yeah!
Man, was I close to going in the drink.
Well, that was cool. It flipped around a little bit, but it, it did what it would do. I mean, we had an impact.
There's part of the cage on the Sharammer. I didn't see it before. The shark took part of the cage out. Look at that.
So, look what's on the shark.
Is that a piece of the cage?
It's like it went right through it.
Bullseye!
The ram is undamaged. Adam's cage, on the other hand...
I mean, obviously it's such a massive amount of force, but really we've not seen any evidence. It's all based on estimation, the 25-mile-an-hour mark. There's no data that shows the shark swimming that fast.
Nor is there any information that shows that a shark actually made it into a cage. That they actually penetrated a cage.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, that's Mythbusters 2, Jaws 1. Time for the final test. In Jaws, the ferocious fish springs a surprise, not to mention several leaks, when it rams the orca. Outside of Hollywood, there's no record of a shark ever attacking a boat this big. Nevertheless, this grand old lady's going to get a grand old pummeling. To maximize the damage, the Orca 5 is positioned so that the Sharammer will hit the flattest part of the hull.
Okay, go.
the military hardware launches a final assault. £3,000 connects at 25 miles per hour.
Oh, camera in the water.
That's the perfect hit. Now, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that we didn't go all the way through it, but
My shark went belly up, but it definitely pierced the side.
It's a Mythbusters first. The experiment's finished, and the boat still floats.
This, I think, it's definitively plausible that 3,000 pounds of shark could make some damage to your boat, even though no great white has ever been caught sinking a boat of this size.
yeah, you get a big fish going real fast. What do you expect?
After all this shark strength testing, what are our final results?
Well, clearly an average-sized great white could not pull a boat backwards. And, I mean, even though a great white could probably pull those barrels down, it couldn't keep them down there as it was in the movie.
Not continuously.
Not continuously, no.
So those two are busted.
Those two are definitely busted.
But on the other hand, we showed that a great white could work its way through a shark cage, probably depending on how it was built, but it went right through ours. And it would also be conceivable that a shark could, given the right circumstances, plow through a wooden boat hull.
Well, then I would call that Mythbusters 2, Jaws Shark Myths 2. That's 2-all, yeah?
Yeah.
After the break, the explosive climax to our Shark Week Jaws-tacular. Time to put the exploding scuba tank myth under the gun. We know a bullet can penetrate a tank's thick aluminum base. But that tank was empty.
Next, we got one charge tank. This one should be somewhat exciting.
This tank contains 80 cubic feet of compressed air stored at 3,000 psi. Now, there's a slim chance the bullet might damage the tank, but not actually rupture it. If that happens, the FBI will have to blow it up. A strip of C4 is taped to the tank. C4 explosive is inert, and so won't be set off by the bullet. Right, we're locked and loaded.
I'm ready.
Any more bold predictions before we pull the trigger?
I'm ready.
I think we're going to poke a hole in it. I think there'll be a really loud noise or maybe even a little bit of a rupture, but I don't believe this is going to be like a bomb going off.
What I'm hoping for is to come around the corner and find the container bowed out in every possible way from the force of the blast.
Now, if everyone could just cower behind the nearest masonry.
Starting the trigger now.
The tank took off like the proverbial rocket, propelled around the container by a jet of compressed air.
It looks like it collected a little paint from the red primer.
Hey, Sharky's still alive. We got a beautiful shot right dead center of the bottom of the tank. The tank did not actually split all the way open. In fact, it shot like a rocket and bounced around in here and tore up some of the back of our Sharky, but didn't explode.
So is this myth, like the shark in Jaws, dead in the water? Not quite.
Given the vagaries of movie editing, one could posit that the bullet entered the side of the tank at the end of Jaws, and I'm sure if we didn't do it, our fans would take us to task for not trying that. So we're going to do that before we call this myth totally busted.
Will a bullet blasting right through the sides of a tank cause a more explosive reaction?
And then you aim right for there.
Poor old Fred is force-fed a fresh tank.
In 3, 2, 1!
I don't know, it sounds like it might have been the same thing.
That's not an explosion, that's a hole.
I don't know that we've ever completed one so fast before. I don't know what to do with the rest of the day.
It's the same result as before. The tank ricocheted around. The bullet didn't make it all the way through.
There's the first hole, and there's the dent for the other hole.
Dent there?
The hole is just too small. You know, the metal in this case is strong enough to hold itself together to withstand an impact, even with all that pressure behind it. without rupturing the tank.
This is Mythbusters, so next, we have to make an explosion. We're just going to blow up the tank.
It's the FBI's moment of glory. Another full tank is placed in position. This time, the C4 will be remote detonated.
Fire in the hole!
I didn't know they really said that.
Now that's more like it. The shockwave knocked over light stands, and there's a nice dent in the container.
Whoa! That's amazing.
And as for Fred,
Anybody up for sushi? So, do you guys think under any circumstances a bullet would do this?
No. It ain't happening with a gun. And, worst he would have gotten is that shark would have swam backwards pretty quick for a few seconds.
This is actually a lot like our explosive decompression story in that a small hole does not a catastrophic failure of the structure make. Just like on an airplane that can manage the pressure even with a bullet hole in it, these tanks don't turn into bombs when you fire bullets into them. They turn into rockets. The final sequence of Jaws, I'm sorry to say, is totally busted.